right now. Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.
All right, thanks a lot, Josh. We definitely have a lot of things to talk about here tonight. 412-575-2600 on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. Chris Mueller will join me from 93.7 The Fan Cam, and there he is right now with the nice vest on, Longview Club. We're going to have to play out there this year, Chris. We do have a lot of things to talk about. We'll save golf for later in the show, but I want to talk about the Combine because I was out there. I just got back. Talk to Omar Khan. You guys had me on your show for a little bit. Talk to him at length. I know it could potentially be smoke and mirrors and what he says and what guys say this time of the year, but I really do believe that the Steelers will sign one of these quarterbacks, and my hunch is it'll be Justin Fields. But I also believe that the Steelers are going to find their running back in the draft. I respect Jerry Dulac. He has a lot of good sources over there, probably the best source. Obviously they might want to get a feel what Najee Harris wants, but I personally think Najee Harris might be better off signing somewhere else. And maybe personally, I think that he thinks that too. He's going to make more money potentially and potentially a better fit.
If somebody out there wants to give Najee Harris $8-9 million, I think I saw somebody, I don't know who it was, speculate about $12 million a year is what somebody thinks he might get from a team. God bless him. He's not going to get $12 million.
Yeah.
If he gets 8 or 9 somewhere, he should go. The Steelers also should just not be in the business of even talking to him about coming back. You can find somebody in this draft in the middle rounds who at bare minimum can give you what Najee Harris gave you. Since he came into the league, Richie, among backs with at least 100 attempts, or even, I guess, quarterbacks, because you'd have to keep Lamar and others in mind, he's got the 14th most yards per game, so 63.5. He is the worst in fact, among the guys who are top 50 since he came into the league in terms of rush yards per game, he is the literal only guy averaging under 4 yards per carry. So think about that. He is the least efficient player, you could argue, at his position who is getting a heavy volume of touches in the entire NFL. Most of that, I think, is on him. Some of it is on their offensive line, but he's just not the kind of player in a year where there's a deep running back class that you should even entertain the idea of bringing back and signing to a multi-year contract.
All right, that leads us to our live poll question tonight. Just scan the QR code right there in the right side of your screen. And what should the Steelers do? Re-sign Najee Harris or draft a running back? You can see right there, I think everyone wants them to draft a running back. I mean, 1,000-yard seasons, not really impressive to me anymore. 4 of them he had. Okay, that's great. I think he has the 5th most yards since coming into the league. But like you pointed out, what does he rank? 14th in average rush yards per carry, under 4. I mean, guys like
he's terrible. He's terrible in yards per carry. He's 3.9. I said since he came into the league of the guys who qualify with at least 100 carries, he's the only guy in the top 50 who is under 3 yards per carry. So it's just woefully inefficient stuff. If they are, the reports are out there that mainly Mike Tomlin is a huge fan of his because he hasn't missed a game and everything else. Would that be just
and doesn't fumble?
Unbelievably, just a total disheartening thing to see them go right back to that well. It would teach me, or show me, I should say, that they have learned nothing as an organization, that Tomlin has learned absolutely nothing, and that they are committed to the old definition of insanity bit, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different and better results.
Well, if they weren't willing to pay him $6 million for 1 year, what makes anyone think that they're going to pay him $6 million for 3 years? I think that's too much for him in this off. He hasn't done anything. The eye test, he fails the eye test for me.
Jaylen Warren, when Jaylen Warren is healthy and he gets nicked up too much and he fumbles, and Mike hates that. Not that I'm saying he shouldn't hate the fumbles, but Jaylen Warren, I think, is the greatest evidence as to what Najee Harris is and what Najee Harris isn't. When Jaylen Warren is right, he is the far more explosive, productive back, and anybody who uses even just something as basic as the eye test can see that. And so if that's what you can get out of an undrafted free agent who doesn't have the pedigree, who didn't go to Alabama, it should tell you that Najee Harris, even though you drafted him where you did, you made the right decision not to pick up the 5th-year option. Don't make a mistake and fall in love with the idea that he shows up every game.
I think this meeting was more to gauge how much Najee wants and what, if he doesn't get in the open market, do you bring him back like a Terrell Edmonds? kind of deal. They've done this in the past.
No.
Well, I agree with you.
They've
I
run him
agree
so
with you,
hard,
but if you can have him come back for $3 million, if he
no,
wants,
I don't want him.
you don't want him back at all, no matter what the price is.
No, I don't want him back for $3 million because what are you going to be paying like a third or fourth round running back that might be good enough to start on day one? You're not going to be paying that guy $3 million. No, I just not enough. Like Najee Harris, unless the Steelers find themselves in a remarkably different situation, a la the Eagles wanting to sign Barkley or the Lions being so loaded at every other position that they want to take a Jahmyr Gibbs, they should really not draft a running back in the first round ever again unless they are in a very unique, like, ultra win-now situation where all the other major pieces are in place.
Well, Ashton Genty could be the one guy that could fall to them that they could potentially take in the first round. I'm with you on it. I'm with you on it, Chris. I'm just saying I was about to lead into that. I talked to Ryan Wilson out there, the CBS Sports Guru. I know you guys have him on your show a lot. But he said you can find, an 80% or a 75% of an Ashton Genty in the third, fourth, or fifth round. And the Steelers would be better served to finding that running back then because he said, from what he told me, it's the deepest position in this year's draft.
Defensive line, running back, ultra deep. They need both. They probably need 2 defensive linemen. If you believe all of that, then really what they probably should do is draft a wide receiver in the first round because one of them should be available and it's a thinner class than it has been in recent years. You could argue they should go wide receiver, defensive line, fourth round maybe look for a running back, maybe, or if you want to draft like maybe a long-term backup, somebody like a Will Howard from Ohio State if he were to fall to that point, or the kid from Louisville who's pretty old but has pretty good tape in the eyes of some. Take that guy, and then honestly, you should still find in the 5th round a running back who's useful. Like the problem is that the Steelers have done it one way while the NFL has largely done it another way, and I think you have to maybe break people here of the belief, maybe even among some of the fan base, that, if you draft a guy in the 5th round at running back, well, he can't possibly contribute. Yes, he can, and yes, he should.
All right, we're taking a break right now. 412-575-2600 is the number. Give us a call. Also, scan that QR code. What do the Steelers do? Re-sign Najee Harris or draft a running back? Coming up in a couple minutes. All right, welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call. This is our Xfinity mobile tweet of the night tonight from Steelers Depot based on the NFL salary cap number, reportedly being set at $279. The Steelers should be right under $60 million under the cap right now based on the current rule of 51. That could also change, Chris, because the Steelers might restructure some guys here. You potentially have some cap casualties. I mean, they could push that number up potentially, to maybe $80 million of cap space.
Yeah, the thing to remember, though, always before people get too excited about that is that every team sees the same jump in the cap. So teams that had significant amounts of cap room before this still have just as much of a significant edge over the Steelers. But, man, you know what I don't want to see them do with some of that space? We're going to just take care of our own. Like, how many guys on this team actually deserve right now to have some sort of big next contract? You know where I stand. I might kind of paint myself as an extremist among fans with this or among people on the outside, but I would be very loath to give TJ Watt some sort of new mega deal. I think he's still going to be a good to very good player for them, but I don't think he's going to be worth what he's probably going to want. And I would have looked into trading him before last year. Now, the reason what I'm saying is kind of a moot point in many ways is because they just truly believe they are a player or two away from being a serious contender. And obviously, Richie, you know me. That's where they and I part company in a significant way as far as how we view their current situation.
Well, if you sign up to an extension this year, you potentially could free up some space this year, maybe not next year or the year after, but free up some space this year to maybe get a couple other guys if you think you are pretty close to maybe making a run.
Do you think they're pretty close? Seriously.
I don't. I don't think they're pretty close. I think they're a good team. I think they're close to winning a game in the playoffs, but I don't think they're close to being Kansas City, Philadelphia, Buffalo, any of those teams right now. I don't think they're close. And we saw that in a 3-game stretch. They were just outmanned, outplayed. And you could tell that they couldn't compete with those kind of teams. Hey, they could win these close games against the Bengals and maybe the Ravens because they're in a division and some other teams, but you can't compete with the Kansas Cities and the Philadelphias and the
Come
Buffaloes.
on, Richie. You know you want to do this. Embrace the dark side. Come over to the bad guy
Well, they
side
need a quarterback,
here,
Chris, and we all know that. But they're not going to be able to get one. This is one of the worst free agent quarterbacks classes that we've seen. They're not going to be able to trade for one. The only one you could trade for is Matthew Stafford. It's going to cost way too much money. And there's no one in the draft that potentially would fall to them that potentially could be a franchise-type quarterback. It's just an awful year to need a quarterback. The best bet for the Steelers is they re-sign Justin Fields. All right, but maybe we'll get a little bit more of that on later. Let's get some phone calls here. We got Gary out in Bethel Park. How you doing, Gary?
Hey, how you doing, guys?
Good. Thanks for calling.
All right, you're missing like the obvious scenario here.
Okay.
The offensive line sucks with the Steelers.
So do you think Najee Harris would be good with a good offensive line? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Absolutely.
Because I think you're wrong.
You put him on Baltimore.
Oh, my
he's
God.
getting 1,600 yards.
Gary, thanks for your call, but I totally disagree. With wide open holes, Najee Harris has missed them and bounced off of the tackles or the guard's back numerous times. I don't care if you put Baltimore's offensive line, Kansas City's, the Eagles, whoever. I don't see Najee Harris being this type of back that maybe we thought he would have been coming out of Alabama.
When he was at Alabama, he had the equivalent of the kind of offensive line Gary is discussing, where they were road grading people, and I still don't think he had a run maybe over 50, 55 yards ever in his career there. Do people realize that there are two very notable things involving the number 40 in this town in sports? The Pirates haven't had a guy hit 40 home runs since, 1979, I want to say?
Yeah, Pedro Alvarez was close, but he had 39, but
he
didn't have 40.
But no cigar.
Yeah.
Willie Stargell's the last guy to do it in this town. And Najee Harris in 4 years, think about this. Think about all the times they actually did block the play up correctly. He has never had a 40-yard run as a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Not one. His high is like 37. That is the long run of his NFL career. I'm sorry, that's unacceptable. He's not Saquon Barkley. He is not Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry had a ridiculously impressive 80-some-yard touchdown run early in the season against the Bills where he just ran away from defensive backs. Najee Harris is getting pulled down after 30 yards tops on that play.
You know, for how bad we thought former first-round running backs were in this town, Tim Worley, one of them, Walter Abercrombie, I mean, people try to run those guys out of town. But they actually had, I think, better or comparable numbers to Najee Harris.
He's like a plow horse type of running back in a true, I think, job share. He should really be the short yardage guy, the hammer. He's a poor man's David Montgomery, who is the hammer in a place like Detroit where the line is better. I think people just have to get off the idea that, like, they actually made a great pick here and he's a victim of circumstance. He's not. And when they drafted him, and these are Kevin Colbert's words, and so everyone's going to have to just hear them again. He talked about Najee's ability to pick up these invisible yards by being just so good of his own volition. And we have found out that nothing could be further from the truth, really, with the guy. If anyone has been picking up invisible yards out of this backfield, it's been Jaylen Warren.
Yeah, no question about it. Let's go out to Jim in Millvale. How you doing, Jim?
Hi, gentlemen.
Hey, thanks for calling.
This might sound crazy, but Mike Tomlin's got to go. It's getting stale around here. I mean, we need a new coach.
Why does that sound crazy? Everyone says that now. I think that's a majority. I think that's a majority opinion around town, is that Mike Tomlin's style has gotten stale. His influence feels stale. Art Rooney has gotten stale.
He gets an A as a coach, though. That's the only A for the Steelers.
Guys like him. I mean, guys like him because I think he does, like, talk to the players and make an effort to relate to the players in a way other coaches don't. But you'll note in that rating, Richie, that he was only, I think, 15 out of 32 in terms of players saying he values their input and, like, is open and receptive to changes. That suggests much more a middle-of-the-pack guy when it comes to stubbornness. I think players really like him personally. I do think he's good at trying to get guys motivated to play their best. And generally, people gravitate towards those kind of charismatic traits. But I think the kind of devil is in the details there, that it's a guy who's just very set in his ways and does not face any challenges from his owner to become less set in his ways.
What would have to happen, do you think, in your opinion, for him to be on the hot seat? I mean, say the Steelers win 10 wins, losing the playoffs again. Obviously, he's not going to be on the hot seat. Missed the playoffs, 6-win season. What do you think?
If they win 5 games next year, it might be the best thing for them. And if they draft a quarterback off of that, and then if they have like 2 more bad seasons, then yeah, I think he would just walk away and they wouldn't renew his contract. It would time up nicely. But he'd have to have multiple pretty bad seasons in a row where they're not even close to 500. But, I mean, say what you want negatively about Mike Tomlin at this point, and I think there are plenty of negative traits to point out that have reared their ugly head. He's incapable of losing more games than he wins in a given season. He finds ways to drag teams to 9-8 or better. And so I think even when we kind of bring up these hypotheticals, Richie, what would it take to get him on a real hot seat? It's almost impossible to imagine any of those things coming to pass.
Yeah, I don't see the Steelers only winning 5 or 6 games. I see them being around a 9-10 win team, just kind of like last year. They have a good defense, above average defense that can win you games. All right, don't forget, check out our live poll question. You can scan that QR code. Which should the Steelers do at the running back position? Re-sign Najee Harris or draft a running back? There it is right now, 60-40. We'll see what happens at the end of the show. We got to take a break. Back in a couple minutes.